Euromaxx Highlights. And here's your host, Karin Helmstedt.
Hi there, and a warm welcome to another Euromaxx Highlights, coming to you straight from Brandenburg Gate in Berlin. And let's kick off the show with a look at the topics. Prehistoric paintings featuring a replica of cave artworks in southern France. Feathered friends fly like a bird with a Swiss-built simulator. And luxury living, a new exhibition opens at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. Well, France is certainly blessed with a wealth of natural and historic sites, not to mention some pretty incredible food. And the Chauvet Cave, with its prehistoric paintings, is just one of their many riches. Now, it's located in the Ardèche region in the south of France, and just last year it was added to UNESCO's list of World Heritage Sites. Now, until now, anyone wishing to actually see the artwork in the cave would have been sorely disappointed, as it was, of course, inaccessible to the public. But now, after years of painstaking work, it's been spectacularly replicated, and that to the very last detail. And we were among the first to visit the new site.
Cave lionesses on the hunt and their wounded prey. It's a world from more than 30,000 years ago, with rhinoceros, bison, wild horses, captured on the walls of the Chauvet Cave. Access to the cave in the south of France is restricted to researchers. But now the paintings have been faithfully reproduced in an artificial cave that will be accessible to all.
It's incredible how realistic it all looks, like in a real cave.
You can dive into the past and understand a bit about how people lived back then.
It's even humid, like in a real cave.
The artificial cave cost 55 million euros to construct. It's all meant to be as accurate as possible, even the smell. Right from the start, the planning had the active participation of experts familiar with the real cave, such as archaeologist Valérie Molès.
It's the largest reproduction ever. And everything you can see here, the paintings, the bones, have all been copied exactly. So in a way, we're here in the original cave.
The name is different, however. It's called the Cavern of Pont d'Arc, named after a bridge in the region. It's just 2 kilometers from the original Chauvet Cave in the southeastern Ardèche département. The cave was discovered in 1994 by a group of 3 hikers, and named after the leader of the group, Jean-Marie Chauvet. The entrance had been blocked off for some 20,000 years by fallen rocks. That helped preserve the more than 450 paintings of animals inside, considered some of the oldest works of art in the world. The find was a sensation for scientists. To protect the precious paintings, the cave was immediately closed to the public.
Today we know that having lots of visitors alters the climate in the cave. It promotes the growth of calcites and mold, and they destroy the paintings.
At 3,000 square meters, the replica is less than half the size of the Chauvet Cave, but it contains all the important paintings. The present-day artists used the same techniques as their prehistoric predecessors: flintstone, charcoal, and engravings. For Michel Clément, who oversaw construction, it was the biggest challenge of his life.
We basically had our doubts the whole time. Like when we put the first sculptures in the hall, and they seemed so lost in this big building. Only when the cavern replica took shape did we start to feel that we would manage it, that it would work.
They did manage it. A few visitors have been able to have a first look, including a couple who run an inn not far from the site.
I think it will be a good alternative for tourists. The Ardèche is mostly known for canoeing, and now there's finally a cultural highlight that's very significant.
For just 13 euros per person, everyone can now journey back to the Stone Age.
Well, arguably, since the Stone Age, people have dreamed of soaring through the air like a bird. And thanks to years of technological developments, we have managed to come pretty close with things like airplanes and paragliders and even wingsuits for those real kamikazes. But the birds still always manage to do it better, which is why researchers in Switzerland have tried to copy their technique by creating a simulator that gives you the illusion of flying in the air like a bird. Now, our reporter Axel Primavesi tested it out to see if it comes close, or a little bit close even, to the real deal.
Flying free as a bird, elegantly through the air and over the landscape. That's the idea. But somehow it looks different with me. The real question is whether the illusion works. I am visiting the BirdLife Center near Zurich in Switzerland. Stefan Heller, the head of the center, came up with the idea for a bird flight simulator. Why are you so fascinated by the flight of the birds?
We humans can't do it. Birds can move in extremely complex ways. They can land on a dime, which no airplane can manage. They can lift off very fast, and they can maneuver among the branches. And we as humans have no chance of doing anything like what a bird can do.
Gulls are breeding here at the moment. From little huts you can watch the birds without disturbing them. The bird center attracts 12,000 visitors a year. And Stefan Heller wanted to offer them more than just observation huts and an exhibition. He wanted a flight simulator, but one that simulates bird flight, not an airplane. Max Reiner made the simulation possible. He and two colleagues at the Zurich University of the Arts developed what they call Birdly.
This platform gives you the feeling that you're really in the air and navigating.
Yeah. Max's team worked for half a year developing Birdly. He shows me where you have to press. The biggest challenge for the team was getting the mechanics to mesh smoothly with the computer software.
The overall experience is more intense when every aspect works together. When all your senses play along and tell you that you're really aloft and flying. That's very different from watching it on TV. Now you can put your hands in here. This is like your wings. Now I'll give you a pair of 3D glasses. With the glasses, you're really thrust into the landscape. Now you also get headphones, so that you really hear everything happening around you.
I'm flying over San Francisco. We are used to seeing cities from above. Almost everyone has stood on top of a high-rise and looked down. So we have a better feel for dimensions among buildings than in nature. That makes the virtual experience more realistic. And that's why the team chose an urban backdrop for the bird flight simulator. I flap my wings and up I go. I get used to maneuvering with my wings quickly. After a short time, I forget all about the real world. A fan simulates the wind. The interplay between the virtual world in my goggles and the real motion of the machine produces a realistic illusion.
Now you have to rise up a bit. Go up, go up, go up. No, that was too close. You've crashed.
It just really feels like flying. And yeah, you really, if you see a building, you just want to avoid. Yes, avoid it and just keep flying, and you get addictive. You really want to do it once more and more. The bird flight simulator is indeed addictive. During my second flight, I felt a little sick, but the simulator is so much fun, I'm willing to accept that.
Okay, so now try taking a look at your hands.
My wings.
What makes me happy is that people are content when they've finished. When they get out of the machine, they're all very happy. I think that's remarkable. Simply flying makes you happy.
Simply flying. Well, we humans will never be able to fly in the air as smoothly as birds. but a flight with Berkeley comes pretty close.
And coming off of that, what does luxury mean to you? Perhaps things like leisure time, family, a big house or a swimming pool, or even a dream holiday. Well, it seems that luxury can be many things to many different people, and we also can assume that our perceptions of luxury have changed dramatically compared to those of our grandparents' generation. Well, a brand new exhibition in London tries to find some answers.
Mechanical clocks with every single detail crafted by hand. 2,500 hours to make a hat of gold threads. Jewelry made of 1,000 hand-knitted nylon bubbles. An 18th century crown studded with priceless gems. Chandeliers made of LED lamps and dandelions. Valuable, exclusive, and opulent objects. They take time and space to make. Pure luxury. But the Victoria and Albert Museum in London wants to know, what is luxury?
We have chosen a question and feel that it's necessary to start a new debate again, to start thinking about luxury, and to kind of open it up from a discourse that we feel has been honed in and has been very limited, just focusing on the luxury industry, brands, etc.
Worldwide, luxury is often associated with cost. Expensive clothes, yachts, big villas, and pricey cars are often high up on people's wish lists. Yet, luxury means something different to everyone. It's something very personal.
Luxury is, well, being able to go to Selfridges and buy whatever I like.
Freedom, I suppose.
Luxury is food.
No, girl, that's necessity.
I like food.
Luxury is like nice things, you know, like things that they just add to life, you know. You don't need it, but like,
make your
like your phone.
I can have all the things that are important for me. For example, that my family is healthy.
With all the stress we have the day long, you know, just time. This is the biggest luxury.
In Western industrialized countries, luxury often means having time to enjoy a stroll or spending time with friends. A luxurious lifestyle also includes rest and relaxation, good health and nutrition, and being globally connected. Jonathan Fairs researches luxury at the University of Southampton and is the publisher of the journal Luxury, which takes a critical look at the subject. The term luxury changes constantly. What's rare is considered precious.
If we looked at the 19th century, the idea of indoor private sanitation at one point was an extreme luxury, whereas now in the West it's a social necessity, it's, you know, it's a legal requirement. And so we understand chronologically that luxury has its own kind of timescales, but where those timescales are being experienced, I think, alters. So in the West it moves quite rapidly. In other countries, obviously the processes of something emerging as a luxury is much, much slower.
So things we need to live, to survive, like clean air, are to this day luxury goods in some emerging and developing countries, as are clean water, education, and food. Back to the Victoria and Albert Museum. What is luxury? The exhibition dares to take a glimpse into the future. A DNA vending machine installation warns about the loss of privacy, which could become a luxury good. Rare earths will get more expensive. Natural resources are drying up. Plastic furniture could become a luxury good because oil is needed to produce plastic. The definition luxury will be influenced by changes in society.
And I think at the moment we are in a moment where it's a universally applied term, so much so that it is beginning to be emptied out of its meaning. Having said that, I am not saying that it will disappear completely, and I think it might well re-emerge in the future and have quite a different meaning, whether that's, as I say, something to do with perhaps abstinence, something to do with less.
Having time for yourself, the luxury of the future. These items reflect that utopia. A pen without ink, a compass without a needle. and a watch without hands.
Well, the overwhelming impression for years now at computer games trade fairs is that the graphics just keep getting more and more realistic. But just as there are fans of vintage fashions, well, there are also fans of retro computer games. Now, these guys prefer the old-style games from the days of Pac-Man and Super Mario. They have chat communities all over the world and even magazines devoted entirely to the retro theme. And now there are even some modern games that have a retro-style interface. And so we met up with two such developers right here in Berlin at the International Games Week.
Retro games are very much en vogue at this year's International Games Week in Berlin. Operating techniques are rudimentary and the graphics are archaic, but gamers here put body and soul into them. Berlin game developers Riyad Jamili and Johannes Christmann love the 30-year-old games. They're fascinated by Pac-Man and other classics of the genre.
It's like old furniture that you wouldn't ever put in your living room nowadays because it's cumbersome or weighs a ton. But you still admire it for the craftsmanship that went into it.
They both recently gave up their jobs with a major games developer to start their own studio. Their first creation was The Curious Expedition, a game of strategy. It's brand new, but looks like a relic of the 1990s. The setting is the 1800s. The player heads an expedition, off to explore distant lands and overcome all sorts of obstacles, such as strange, never-before-contacted peoples, or natural disasters. Johannes Christmann designs the old-school graphics. He conjures up landscapes using just a handful of pixels. The game's simple, no-frills look is another advantage.
Our game won't be outdated too quickly because it was designed to be an antique. We hope it'll still be playable in 5 or 10 years' time. In contrast, when a modern game comes out today, it already looks outdated after 6 months. Plus, there's a reduction of the resolution, which we hope will leave more to the player's imagination.
The game's concept is also influenced by the classics. As in the original adventure games, the player has to read a lot and carry out complicated tasks. If your character dies, you have to start all over again, with no saving your previous progress.
It's a tricky game that can make you tear your hair out for a few hours. That too is reminiscent of the old difficult games. There's a great fascination with a game that's hard to master and in which you can fail. In our game, there are lots of ways to lose, and that's a big attraction.
Retro, that's what people usually call games that are more than 20 years old. This is the mother of all commercial computer games, Pong, from the year 1972. A little later, Space Invaders came out. It paved the way for a series of other shoot-'em-up games. Mario appeared in 1983 and made jump-and-run games popular around the world. Then came the first graphic adventure games. Monkey Island from 1990 boasted outstanding graphics and a cult following. Today, more and more developers are out to return to the old look. As in Minecraft from 2009. With 56 million copies sold, it's one of the most successful games in the world, despite or maybe precisely because of its graphics. Gaming expert Andreas Lange says those images remind many people of their youth.
These early computer games became popular at the time when computer technology as a whole was spreading. These graphics became known along with the first personal computers. And looking back today, we know how important this development was for us. A digital revolution began back then, and so these retro graphics don't stand just for dumb old games, but for computer technology as a whole.
And retro games are popping up in art, too. 8-bit graphics on canvas, here at Berlin Games Week. The Game Boy is obviously still a huge favorite, and among the eye-catchers at the exhibition, as is the Nintendo family of figures, the past inspiring the present generation for the future.
If a picture of us would hang here someday, what a fantastic idea that is.
For now, they just hope their game is a hit, and that someday people will look back on it as a classic too.
Well, spring has finally made its entrance here in Germany, and this year it had a bit of a double whammy character to it, and that's because the Federal Garden Show recently opened its doors to the public. Well, also known as the Buga, it takes place every 2 years, and it's always staged in a different part of Germany. Well, the idea is, of course, to lure as many tourists as possible with beautiful floral displays, and we headed out of the German capital to find out how it's looking this year.
The 2015 National Garden Show is a sea of flowers. This year, the show is hosted by the Havel region west of Berlin. The region is a jewel of natural beauty with its riverway and scenic landscapes. From now through October, visitors can explore dozens of horticultural delights. All 5 host locations are located on or close to the Blue Ribbon as the river is being marketed.
The great thing is that we didn't have to develop any new sites for the show. We didn't go out into the fields. We went to places where people actually live. These are places that have always had potential. We've now reinvented those sites around these historical backdrops.
The event showcases the latest trends in over 30 gardens. Many of them highlight one of the themes of the show, water. The gardens range from classic to the less conventional, some incorporating objects found in the Havel River. The native flora of the Havel region is also celebrated. Among the other themes, gardens in confined spaces.
I can create something from materials and works of art. I don't need acres of green space to create an attractive garden.
We then drive 30 kilometers from the town of Brandenburg to Rathenow. That trip makes us appreciate just how huge an area this year's garden show covers. The Havel River also runs through Rathenow. There's another blue ribbon here for visitors to explore, an art installation.
The blue ribbon is a symbol for the Havel. It will stretch from Brandenburg to Rathenow and Havelberg.
There will be lots to see for the rest of the year until October, and that's very appealing.
There's something for everyone.
The trip now continues from Rathenow to the next destination of Havelberg, about a 45-kilometer drive. The highlight here is the town's church. But it was a challenge to maintain the theme budding blooms and the scent of spring in such a dimly lit space.
We have around 800 to 1,000 lux of light here in the hall, and we'll be carrying the watering can through the rows of plants here very carefully, because the floor is historical. It's part wood and part stone. You have to be pretty careful not to damage the floor.
This show is also something special for visitors.
It's really impressive to see so many plants in a church. I really enjoyed it a lot.
We came here just to take an idea or two home with us.
We have season tickets, and we plan to use them often.
The show runs until the end of October, so visitors can take in millions of flowers in a sea of blossoms at Germany's National Garden Show.
And that does bring us to the end of this edition of our Euromaxx Highlights. We hope you've enjoyed it. And until we meet again, all the best from us here in Berlin. Tschüss, ciao, and bye-bye.